So there I was on this blissful day, minding my own business, smelling the roses, when my wife called out, and honestly, I'm not quite sure if it was a request or a threat, but she said, "Make your son a step stool." Apparently, shotgunning toothpaste all over the sink is a problem. I thought he could stand on a 4x4 cutoff, but she said no, and I don't win these arguments, so what's a guy to do but to trot on over there to the depot and pick up the straightest, prettiest piece of pine in the stack. So I started coloring on this new treasure to cross-cut it to length with a handsaw. Even when I had my table saw in action, I pretty much just used it for repeated cuts, going for the handsaw for any one-off cuts. But right now I'm in the middle of a move and have set up shop in the corner of the garage, building this workbench and only using the tools that you can see behind me on the wall and a couple of planes on the bench. I square up and clean up that end grain on a shooting board, and then I go about cross-cutting a few more pieces for the project. I'll probably build a saw bench at some point just for fun, but I'm a bench man, and as I've said before, the workbench is my workshop. So all these cuts are done in the vise on my bench, and everything's going hunky-dory until this. The kerf is closing in on my saw and binding, and that can mean only one thing. This board is twisting. Prime example as to why cutting to length should happen before flattening the board. And I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. When I drop the winding sticks on the board, that back winding stick, and I hope you can pick this up on the video, but it doesn't match up with the front. Over here on the right, it's low and sticking up on the left, so these are my two high corners. And maybe this will be easier to see on video showing like this with the hand plane. These are my two relatively high corners. They touch on both corners, but if I go in the opposite diagonal direction, low corner to low corner, you can see the high point in the middle and a gap of light on those two low corners. A quick test is just to wiggle the plane around, and if it wiggles easily, it's pointing to the two low corners. If it feels hard to wiggle, it's probably pointing to the two high corners, and even a blind guy could see that. Anyway, enough science. The takeaway here is that when wood is binding in the cut, it doesn't just mean binding or kickback on certain power tools. What it really means is that the board needs to be flattened. I also did a little touching up on the width to make sure everything was matching together. Then onto the dividers to start laying out the joints, but instead of doing all dovetails like always, you can see a little bit of a stranger pattern going on here. And I'm not really sure what you would call this, some sort of dovetail box joint combination thing going on. And it really doesn't make it any harder or easier, it's just different, and I thought it would be sort of fun and interesting to do. These are all the box joint parts, and then I'll throw a couple of dovetails in there too. Voila, just like that we have some Frankenstein type of joint laid out. And I have shown this trick before, but it's worth repeating for anyone who hasn't seen it. If you cut joinery in your vise, draw a couple of vertical lines on the inside of your vise jaw, so anytime you place a board in the vise, you can set it up to that line and don't have to worry about messing around with the square to get it vertical, and you can get right to it. Were those 30 seconds of silence just the sound of sawing strange for you guys? What's weird is when I look at these video analytics, the part where I'm not running my mouth constantly usually have less audience retention. And I've heard myself in a voicemail before, it scared the heck out of me, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I realize I have a habit of blowing away the sawdust all the time, and it might be annoying to the viewer, but kind of makes me feel like Billy the Kid, so I'll probably just keep doing that. After cutting out most of the waste with the coping saw, I use a chisel right down to the line and go about halfway from one side, maybe a little bit more, and then flip it around and go from the other side. Then use the marking knife to transfer the pattern to the other corner. There's other, maybe better ways of doing it using a saw, a pencil, or, whatever floats your boat, but the big point is to look at how it goes together to identify the waste section that needs to be cut out. I'm not, and really never have been, big on promoting a lot of inexpensive tools, but I will say this dovetail saw is an Amazon special and it works like a charm after getting it sharpened up a bit. And then it's the same drill here. Remove most of the waste with a coping saw and then blast it down to the baseline with a chisel. And then I go for a little test fit, and this is all about the sound. Listen to this. Keep going back and forth and it keeps ringing out hollow until you hear the thud. And just to add a little something, I freehand a curve, and I can't draw a stick figure, so the best way I've found is to position the wood so that the natural sweep of your hand hits it right where you want it. Then I use this bow saw, a coping saw would work fine too, and then sand out the cut. To glue this up, I dusted off my glue pot and mixed up a little bit of hot hide glue. I tried only gluing the sidewalls and none down in the recess so that it would seat down all the way more easily when this corner gets smacked together. This little step stool wasn't very wide, so I can clamp it right in the vise, but here's a little tip. It helps to have a board spanning across of the vise for it to rest on and give it a little bit more stability for the finish planing. Is there anything better than the way a hand plane makes those faceted edges come together? I mean, well, steak obviously, but that lightly clean beveled edge is up there too. When I was a little kid, I was always making potions, which was basically just a bunch of junk I found in the bathroom that I mixed together in some sort of container. Well, I guess I never really grew up because in woodworking I've always enjoyed mixing things up with various ingredients for making finishes and stuff like that. Here I'm swirling around this jar of shellac, which was made with shellac flakes and Everclear, which is just pure alcohol. This jar is several years old and I haven't used it in a while, so I'm kind of curious to see if there's going to be any problem with the shellac hardening properly. Shellac has kind of a scratch-prone surface, and hitting it with a bit of furniture wax gives it more of a slippery surface, cuts down on the scratches, plus it makes it look a little bit better. I hope everyone's New Year is off to a great start. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.